Guys, welcome to the How They Did It podcast. I'm here actually with Mikey. He's my cousin. He's a basketball agent. And why I'm bringing Mikey on the podcast specifically is because quite recently, Mikey had a blood test around March. In that blood test, he had some markers that were unfavorable. He found that he has a bit of a genetic condition with his LPA. Once he found that out, he was adequately nervous, as you should be finding something like that out. But unlike a lot of people, and that's the reason I want him on, because a lot of people get nervous and they get uncomfortable, but they take that anxiety and then just try to avoid it and not think about it, make themselves feel better. Instead, Mikey made himself feel better by taking a bunch of actions. So I want to bring Mikey on so he could tell us his experience and hopefully give us some information that can help you guys if you guys are dealing with anything like that. Mikey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me on, and I'm here to share my story, and if I can help anybody or do anything I can, I'll be happy to do that.
So, Mike, right off the bat, I want to ask you. I remember that happened. What was the first thing you did when you saw the test? What was like your first reactions?
Well, the first thing was I didn't really know what it was, so first thing I did was I ran it through ChatGPT, and then all these answers started coming out from ChatGPT. And then after I started, getting nervous and scared, where I was like, because I saw LPA, I didn't know what the hell it was, you know.
Yeah,
So
of course.
once I saw that, that's when I started getting nervous. I saw that, LPA is genetic, and it causes atherosclerosis, and
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, and the first thing I wanted to do is see how I can deal with it. What do you do? How exactly do you deal with this? So basically, searching on the internet, it says there's nothing you can do to deal with it. Basically,
Hmm.
like there's only some expensive medication like PCSK9 inhibitors, which those even help just a little bit, like 25 to 30% reductions. Um, yeah, so that's when I started getting really nervous. Like, then I'm also a smoker. I was a smoker at least. Um,
Yeah.
and also that causes issues when you have LPA plus smoking. It just makes everything
Yeah.
even worse. And I was just in the situation, just rethinking everything.
Yeah. How long after you started getting freaked out did you give me a call? Like, was it within like a few hours? Was it like a day later? How long
I
after
think
was
it was
that?
a day later. I think it was a day later.
Hmm.
Like a day later, we spoke. I also spoke to my parents about it. Because I wanted to see where it's coming from too. Because obviously it's coming from a family member like my father or my mother. So that was the first thing to talk to them. Then I spoke to you, and then immediately I also went and saw a cardiologist, the doctor. And yeah, she also told me that, there's nothing you can do, it's genetic, but what you can do is try to get all the other factors down, like LDL cholesterol. My glucose levels were also high, so get those down. Basically, get everything else down, stop smoking, um, get everything else down, stop high saturated fat intake. So, yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was intense. I remember, like, you didn't only have your LPA was high. That was just what really got our attention. You also had a fasting glucose of 103. Your total cholesterol was 241, you know, and that all these things seemed, it's also being your fasted glucose being that high, considering were not fat. But I think a huge thing that changed within you was you were what you might call is skinny fat, where you weren't very heavy like weight wise, but your body composition was lean more towards fat than lean mass.
Yeah, look, I guess I would agree too. I mean, the way I thought of it is usually that I'm pretty thin, I'm pretty skinny. I always had this thought process that since I'm pretty skinny, I could eat whatever I want, and that's what I did. I did work out too. I had like a little workout 30 minutes a day to stay in somewhat of decent shape. But yeah, these tests were, getting these answers and
Yeah,
was shocking.
for sure, for sure. And I remember when you called me, the first thing I told you was number one, we got to quit smoking. Like that's a non-negotiable. Like you can't have your LPA skyrocketing. Where were you at? Like 102, 124 or something at the time. Like your LPA was high. Your LDL was fucking flying. You were like 146. Your total cholesterol was 241. Your fasted glucose was what was it, 103 or something.
Yeah.
So you're already like you were in a place. I'm like smoking. That has to be the number one. And we talked about maybe some ideas, maybe nicotine patches. We talked about the nicotine. You tried a couple times those nicotine zins or whatever you
Yeah,
call
yeah.
them, those little nicotine things, and different things to get you to stop smoking. I also talked about increasing your exercise load, getting on some supplementations. Uh, During that time, we started on Dr. Dean. I got you because you wanted to get all of the supplements we possibly could. So I hooked up with Dr. Dean. He works with us in supplement needs. We got the heart stack. You taking omega 3s? Am I correct? Am I
Yes.
missing anything here?
Psyllium husk, omega 3s, the heart stack. And I also added turmeric supplement to that with black pepper. Anything basically, even to get a small percentage down of my LDL, like I was doing it. Like
I mean, you work out five days a week essentially, right? At this point, sometimes six.
6, even sometimes 7, it just, but like I'll be always, my standard is 5 to 6 times a week for sure.
So you're working out, you go from working out maybe a few times a week, 4 to 5 times a week, but not super intense. So really picking up your intensity in your exercise, being much more structured with your diet, your protein intake, you're making sure that your saturated fats are lower. Like this is a huge lifestyle change. This is by no means small. For like most people, this is a 360. One, I want you to explain because I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, he did it, but for me, it's super hard. It was also hard for you, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean the food intake somewhat I was able to deal with, but the smoking was, that addiction is like fuck, you taking that from me now,
Yeah,
and it's still hard. It's still hard without the smoking. Like the food, I've been able to adjust it, because I've
yeah,
been using sweeteners for this. I've been all
yeah.
right with the food. I've been able to adjust that. But the smoking was definitely and still is the hardest part.
For sure. I mean, I think that the other stuff is probably hard, but it's overshadowed by how hard the nicotine addiction is and the smoking addiction itself. Because smoking by itself is also habit forming. The idea of lighting up a cigarette and smoking it, that itself, even without the nicotine part, is an addicting habit to do. Like a lot of people talk
Yeah, you
about it.
got
Like,
you got to think about, like, for a smoker, it's like even thinking about certain moments in life of what you're doing, like even like going on a vacation or seeing a sunset. For some reason, it's always it's always the idea of smoking a cigarette at the same time doing all this. It's
yeah,
just combining that addiction. You know, with the food, I was able to do that, and the results I like too, because I actually feel better not eating refined sugars and all that shit.
yeah.
Just eating whole foods. I've even felt my workouts be better, and my mental state be better.
Bro, I think one of the amazing things is you've increased the amount of muscle you have on your body. Like you're leaner, but you're more muscular, and that's one of the benefits you get when you're just starting out on your fitness journey. Is you can body recomp quite efficiently, and you did that. Like I remember last time we were in Greece together, we went on a workout and you were hitting dips, and I could see like striations in your shoulders, in your lats, like you're hitting pull-ups. You had a problem with your shoulder. Your shoulder was dislocating just from certain movements. Now you're doing full range of motion, controlled eccentric pull-ups. That must feel very, very good, especially as someone like in your age, in your mid 30s.
Yeah, it does. I'm actually starting to see like my six pack slowly forming. Which, yeah, and that shoulder thing too was a hassle that I was dealing with for years now. And yeah, yeah, man, it's great.
So I want to go over quickly. These are some of the results and some of the changes. So we're talking from March until June,
Yeah.
right? And the big changes we see. We saw that your LDL improved from 146 guys to 82. Gigantic. Cut down. Total cholesterol 241 to 167. Fasted glucose 103 to 86.5. All your inflammation markers are great. Your vitamin D was excellent. Your LPA, that part, it still needs attention. But overall, there's nothing much you could do about that. The only thing we see now that we could change is some low folate and your homocysteines a bit high. But outside of that, it's like so fantastic results, incredible. Like, was there a feeling when you got those results? Was there like relief? Was there like any kind? Also, was there any kind of like feeling, oh, going back to your old habits, or were you more locked in?
Definitely relieved. Like I was surprised to see like my LDL go down to 82. Like I was holy shit. Like even calculate because I was calculating all the shit I'm doing, on ChatGPT, and everything was calculated above. Like it was saying for what you're doing, you're gonna get 115 to 120. So that's where my expectations were. 115, 110, maybe 100,
Yeah.
maybe. When I saw 82, I was like, holy shit! And it's like I felt like I aced that test, and I was just so happy because all the hard work, that I put in, I was like, fuck yeah, man. I got results for this fucking shit I did. It wasn't for nothing. Seeing my glucose
No,
levels going to 86, I was like, fuck yeah, man. And I deserve that.
unbelievable, man. You deserved that 100%. And like, I remember like I'd given you a workout program quite a while back, and you would do it, but I felt the difference even when you would come to me with questions about the workout program. You'd come to me with questions about like things that are going on in your body, what you should be taking nutritionally. Like, you had a thirst for knowledge and to make this result happen, and you put in a tremendous amount of work. And I think that's something people can really take from listening to this is like, you get something bad happens, it's bound to at some point. Maybe you go to the doctor and he's like, you're obese, you need to lose 30 pounds. Or maybe you go to the doctor and your cholesterol's through the roof, or seems that you're having early stages of issues with your lungs due to smoking or something, and you want to make that quit. That nervousness you feel, that uncomfort, that is where change is made. Like, there's no other way for change to be made. We've had a million conversations before this test about getting in better shape, about quitting smoking, about the potential dangers, about getting some muscle for aesthetics, and nothing really motivated you. You were still eating bugatsis at nighttime. You were still smoking cigarettes. You would throw in a workout, and that was cool. But and by the way, that's much. I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. It's much better than nothing. But it's like you didn't have like a sense of purpose and motivation. But when that fire got lit under your ass because you got scared, that's what it took.
Look,
And that's turning a negative to
it's
positive.
exactly like you said. It was a more of a nonchalant attitude of doing things before. I wasn't like focused on my protein intake or the food I'm eating, or it's just like fuck. I'm hungry. I'm gonna get through this fucking workout. I'm gonna do this, do what I gotta do. I got my work to do. I got this. But yeah, now it's like everything's to the dot to what I'm doing. I'm getting a certain amount of protein every day. I'm having a lot of fiber. I'm eating a lot of fruits. So it's way more, and my workouts are a lot more focused. And I'm more focused on finishing my workout and giving the right amount of intensity instead of, dragging myself through it, you know?
Man, and that's so big, and I think it's something like like the audience doesn't know. Mikey is a basketball agent. He works for Diamond Sports, the family company, so he works with athletes all the time. But I think it's a thing that even athletes, like, what it takes now. Like, that's exactly what athletes need to be doing. And seeing yourself put yourself through it and treat yourself like an athlete, you see the results are just massive from where you were before. Like, keeping an intensity. If you go into the off season in your basketball career and you want to get ready for those, during the summer, you're not putting in the work in the weight room, you're not putting in the weight in the drills, you're going to come to the season and you're not going to be ready. And I think that's kind of like what happens when you go into the gym. If you just kind of lackadaisically go through the situation, you're really not going to get that progress. Still better than zero, but not going to be that progress that you've seen.
Yeah. Well, most definitely, even myself doing this helps me, uh, me educating myself on all this stuff even helps me more on, giving it some advice to my clients too, when we could be able to talk about that stuff and have, interesting conversations about that. And I will talk about them about their protein intake, and some of them want to gain some weight, gain some muscle, and that's stuff I can emphasize now and have a better understanding of.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up because I think it's important. Like, a lot of people, they don't want to jump onto diet programs, and one of the reasons they don't is because they're very picky eaters. A lot of the foods do not seem appetizing to them. It doesn't go for their palate. Mikey is an extremely picky eater. He has a ton of allergies, like through the roof. Like, you name it, he got it. So when he came to me to talk about this, and we were talking through dietary options, it wasn't simple. It wasn't super clear cut, like, do this, this, and this. There was like we had to like find maneuvers, but if you put a little bit of effort beforehand, you're able to really, there's so many options out there to get exactly what you need.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I,
Like, you eat a lot more fiber now. You don't, even though you're not a big vegetable guy, you eat a lot more fruits now. What are the foods you're mostly eating nowadays?
my diet, generally consists of chicken breast. I have lentils every week. I'll have lentils one day, beans. Uh, I have a lot of oatmeal in the morning with apples, usually. So I have a lot of fruits, chicken breast, sweet potatoes, uh, potatoes. I've been doing baked broccoli now. Broccoli, I know that you could actually. I'm pretty weird. Like broccoli, I don't like it steamed or boiled. So there's a trick that I learned that broccoli, if you cut it up, into pieces, you chop it and you leave it on the chopping board for about 30 minutes before you cook it. It actually releases all its sulforaphane, something like that it's called, which is
Yeah.
its healthy qualities. And then after you could just season it, olive oil, bake it. It just gives it a much better taste. Doing a lot of
Yeah.
peppers, a lot of lean meat, and a lot of beans and lentils and stuff like that.
I want you guys, if you guys didn't catch it, he said chicken breast twice in there. That shows you how much chicken breast he's eating.
My
It's
freezer
about
is full
10%.
of chicken breast. It's full of chicken breast. And I'll have some ground beef with, very little fat here and there. But yeah, red meat is
Yeah.
at a minimum. And a lot of
And
fish too. Sorry to cut you off.
no, no, no. It's great. And like, yeah, and by the way, fish is also not something that you're generally a huge fan of for the most part, right? Like, you have to be, you're very picky on which fish you want to
I
eat.
am now. I mean, I'm a fan now. I love it now.
You've grown
Yeah, yeah,
into
I've
it.
grown
Yeah,
into it. I
okay.
love it.
So I mean, like, I really think this message of change is important because when you go through a process, whatever that is, and you want to change your diet for a multitude of reasons, like, the hardest part is the beginning effort because you have to go through everything and kind of figure out what fits your lifestyle. Like, and like, you needed to get your LDL down. So like, yeah, maybe eating pork chops is probably not the best idea for you, especially fatty pork chops. Who doesn't love a good steak? that probably isn't something you would have you'd have a lot less frequently. Alcohol, probably got to cut that back a little bit. But okay, what can we bring in? Well, we could bring chicken breast. I like oatmeal. You use protein supplementation. I use whey protein regularly, correct?
Yeah, soy protein for the in the meantime now
So
I've been having.
yeah, so soy protein. You're having lentils, which are great, lots of fiber, a lot of great vitamins, and you still are adding a little bit of ground beef. And there was some days like I think to be clear, because a lot of people might hear this and be like, "Holy shit!" There was days like when I came out to Greece, we had a couple beers together. Like we went out to eat at a tavern, and there was like some red meat that was fatty you
Yeah.
had. It wasn't as if you were abstinent
No,
of all these
no, no.
things.
I did have my cheat days when we're out, when we went out, I had fried foods. I had, I just ate. I didn't worry about it. But when I got back to my program, I knew that when I'm at home, when it's time to get back to work, you're back. I took it just how I take my work. Like I'm an obsessive person. When it comes to what I'm
Yeah,
doing. So the way I applied myself to my work, I applied myself the same way to my health now. Even like with
that's right.
smoking, like I always wanted to stop. You remember we had the conversations. Like I always had in my mind at some point to stop. I always thought of my mother because she smoked. I think it was up until 42, 40, or 45. I can't remember exactly. I always had that number in mind. That when I start reaching that age, I'm gonna stop. And who knows? I don't know if I really meant it or not. I did have that thought that I wanted to, but the addiction was still keeping me there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was like something forceful, and that anxiety, you know, definitely pushed me to do it even more.
Well, look, I was beyond thrilled that you stopped smoking. Your aunt, my mother, she died of lung cancer, small cell lung cancer, that was very brutal through the entire process. And like since then, I've been like, we need to. Anyone that not in the family that's has cigarettes, I hate to see it. And so I was on one end, I actually feel that the LPA scare might have been one of the greatest things that ever happened to you from multiple levels, because I think one, as a person you grew, like I seen it from someone that's known you since you were born, that like you are the most dedicated I've seen you, the most disciplined I've seen you. um you're on like a level of structure with your food, with your workout. You're taking care of your own health. That's gonna take care of that. Also has an overlay to everything else in life. Like I feel when I'm on my point, when I hit my workouts, I hit my work, my training, I'm choosing not to do things that are hurting myself. That outlays in like my productivity, the amount of work I could put in, the amount of resilience I have when things go wrong in my work, and everything else. Have you felt that?
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. This is not only my physical health has, changed, but it's also, the mental outlook that I have on things.
So, Mike, to end this off, I want to get one thing. What does the future hold here? Is it more of the same? Are you looking to optimize some things? Like we saw that your folate was low, maybe some more supplementation. How about your workouts? Are you maybe looking to like take things to the next level as far as that going? Where do you stand?
I am at a quite busy time with work right now, but I have been like every day keeping my workouts. So I'll do a workout at home, and then I'll go to the park and I'll do some cardio, and I'll do dips and pull-ups, and so I think I'm gonna stay strong with that for now. Um, I think a gym membership will be coming up for sure. To get more intensive workouts. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, staying strong. I also got a vitamin B complex I started on, to fix my other deficiencies. And I'm also I have an appointment tomorrow with a cardiologist again. So just gonna go check up there, get her thoughts on everything. And yeah, man, just gonna continue this journey. I think I'm gonna, have a couple more cheat days here and now that I feel more, comfortable with everything. You know, that LPA rising in my last test, I did not like that. Like in my first test, it was 102,
Yeah.
and right now it was 124.
It's 124, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're saying it, from what I'm reading, it doesn't really matter. It also says because your liver produces that, and if your liver is under stress from anything, it could come out in the test like that. So, yeah, and patiently waiting for, the medication that's supposed to come out in the next few years or something they're talking about, like totally getting rid of this, like with a pill and or with a shot. So excited for that too, man. And in the meantime, trying to get everything else in line and trying to stay healthy, man, and be healthy.
Well, look, man, and as far as like the future medical, it's like these things are the amount, the speed that the medical world is moving at this point. That hopefully we'll be solving all of these problems ASAP. But in the meantime, I think that you're generally doing great. I'm beyond proud of you for everything you've done. Like I'm super super excited and proud of you for it.
Appreciate it, brother.
Uh, and I think you're in the right place. The only warning I give is make sure that you don't fall into the slippery slope because sometimes when you give yourself too many slack days, it goes like, you go down that path. So keep fighting. You can have as many more cheat days or free days, whatever you want to call them, as you would like, but just keep down the path of, keeping the structure because that's what holds discipline, what holds long term.
No, for sure, man. And that's gonna stay. Like I said, it's only gonna be like, when I'm going out on a date with my girlfriend, or you come into town,
Yes,
or we go out, we go to a tavern. I'm gonna indulge, in some fried foods. And man,
of
ever
course.
since I stopped eating that shit, like anytime we're out, we actually start eating it. It's like I actually feel how addictive this damn food is. It's like you can't stop
Yeah.
eating it.
Oh yeah, you can eat all day. You're like, I could do this all
It's
day. Give me
crazy.
a whole nother. You don't gotta tell
Oh
me. You
my
don't gotta tell
god.
me. Yeah. Well, Mike, I'm beyond proud of you. I want to thank you for coming on the pod and helping it, telling everybody here. Uh, I'm going to keep you guys updated for anyone that follows me on Instagram. When Mike gets some new stuff coming out, he gave me the permission to keep you guys updated. He's a beyond proud of him, and you guys should take a lesson from here. Anyone that's in a situation like this and you're feeling that anxiety, use it. It's the best fuel you could possibly have to move forward. Mike, thank you so much. That's a
I
pod.
appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.